My name's Tim. I'm a musician, a car collector, an automotive journalist, and a lover of all things automotive. I've bought and sold collectible cars for 2 decades, and I hope my experiences and my point of view helps you find the car of your dreams. Italians make stunningly beautiful cars. Alfa Romeo is no exception. The 4C is a bold and beautiful design, and one that forces you to look back after you walk away from it in a parking lot. Or when you see it for the first time in the day, I don't know, you notice some new element of the car that speaks to that evocative Italian, voluptuous design language. And I think when it comes to the coupe version of this car, there are those who find it strikingly beautiful and those who are wrong. I'll go ahead and get this out of the way. I love the twin clutch gearbox. I think it's the perfect choice for this car. The TFT display is logically laid out. There's all sorts of information coming at you. Race mode features all sorts of sideways action, no intervention, violent shifts, and dynamic mode is just about perfect. Car reviews have a certain format. When a new car is released, we judge it against other cars that it's similar to, and we take into consideration its performance times. The performance times of this car were good, but not super stellar, given that we're in this era of 2 seconds to 60, 700 horsepower, ultra performance cars. This particular car was beautiful and recalled to me things like the Tipo 33 and the 8C. And I instantly fell in love with it, but the performance specs left me a little bit cold. Then I drove it. This is one of those cars that truly they missed the mark in really describing what this car is. There are 2 reviews of this car other than this one that I think you should watch if you're really thinking about getting one of these. That's the Chris Harris review and the Jason Camisa review. Those 2 reviews, both of those guys laughed for a significant portion of the video. And really that's what this car is about. Unbridled fun. And it has it in spades. When I first drove this car, I could not believe how much I loved it versus what my expectation was. In the reviews, they pitted it against things like the Exige. Well, the Exige was a great car. It did everything that you would want a sports car to do, except it was really small, really cramped. With this car, it's almost as wide as it is long, and there is plenty of space inside for someone even a few inches taller and a few inches wider than me. So this car really blew my mind. Unfortunately, I couldn't stretch to make it happen at that time, but then I found this one in a small collection in Texas, and I was elated. This is a launch edition 4C, and I think it's one of the best cars that you can buy right now. The Alfa 4C has a lot of really intriguing, a lot of beautiful, a lot of very Italian design elements. And Marco Tincone, who designed this car and also penned the Maserati Alfieri, did an outstanding job on this car. If you think about it, this is a very short car. It's a very small car, and yet he still manages to get this beautiful, sweeping, mid-engine, very exotic looking car out of it. In fact, the nose recalls great cars like that Tipo 33 and 8C in a very evocative way, and I think it's one of the most beautiful Alfa Romeos ever built, despite being a very small car. Probably the most special aspect of the Alfa Romeo 4C is its carbon fiber tub. It weighs less than 250 pounds. It is truly a remarkable piece, hand-hewn, hand-fashioned, and then hand-assembled completely at the Maserati factory. Now you'd think, wow, that has to limit the amount of these that they could build, and well, it did. Alfa originally had wanted to make 3,500 of these a year. They didn't come anywhere near that. In fact, there's speculation that of the 500 launch edition cars, of which this is one, that they didn't even make the 500. So it's an extremely rare car, and one that I think needs to be, proportionally speaking, the coupe to be the ultimate collector car. Now, in terms of production numbers, the production numbers on this car are kind of hilarious. In 2015, they made 663 cars. Now, again, that's roadsters and coupes. 2016, they made 492. In 2017, there's 406. 2018, 238. And in 2019, 145. So far this year, they've sold about 30 4Cs. Now, 2015 to 2018 in the United States market are the only years the coupe was available. And I think the coupe, which kind of echoes a little bit the Lotus Evora with this sort of floating roofline, and definitely echoes the 458 with these beautiful vents, and even the F12 with the outlet and the light. It's such an incredibly Italian car, and it literally twists heads off necks when you drive it around. It's one of those things where I think that they missed the marketing, never really saw or heard much positive marketing. And when you did hear marketing for this car, it was about trivial things. You know, one of the things that I really want to bring attention to, and you'll see through the course of this video, is I love the cockpit. You know, when I first drove the car, before performance was even an issue, you can tell a lot about a car when you sit in it. And the very first car I drove, similar to this car, had the track pack. And when I got in it, look, I'm over 250 pounds. Typically when I get in a car, there's some suspension flex. This thing is completely rigid. Spring rates are similar to Porsche GT3. It is unbelievably rigid. And in terms of the interior fit and finish, I was shocked how nice the car felt inside. To criticize this car on the radio, this car, if it didn't have a radio, I think that would almost be preferable. I mean, you listen to the sounds of the intake whoosh and the diverter valve and all the noises that you want to hear from a highly turbocharged engine. I mean, that's so much more evocative, and to sort of criticize the interior for have some plastic bits, I'm not feeling it. One thing that I think that really sold me on the car, and the reason that I ended up with the car, is I started playing Would You Rather. You know, I started playing Would You Rather have this car or this car? And with the 4C, I found myself more often than not, after driving it, saying, yeah, I'd rather have the 4C. And you have to get up to a GT3 RS. Yeah, I'd rather have a GT3 RS. But a GT3, I would take this over a GT3. A 997 GT3 RS, I would still take this over that. In terms of overall composure, overall build quality, overall performance of the car, I think the 4C is certainly a car that holds its own. In fact, more than holds its own. Because as I sort of did the Would You Rather, the cars that I would rather have than this car, like a GT3 RS or a 458, are significantly more money. And I think that this is a car that will stand the test of time and truly be a classic for all time. Group B noises is just one thing that makes this car superlative. It makes all the right noises, and I think additionally, there's nothing else that has the kind of ultra direct, super pointy road feel of the 4C. There's nothing. Alfa really had a mind towards heritage, and with this whole new line of cars they brought out right now, like the Giulia, the Stelvio, the 4C, and I would say even going back to the 8C, they've done a great job of recognizing their heritage. As I mentioned earlier, Marco Tincone did a great job designing this car. He gets all of the hallmarks that I would hit if I was a designer, and yet it's a new thing. It's not completely derivative in the way that, say, like when the new Beetle came out, it was just sort of a modernized new Beetle. It isn't an exact replica of any previous Alfa, but it pays homage to so many interesting Alfas that came before. Interestingly, they decided to keep it at a 1750 capacity engine, and I love that. I've had 1750 and 2000cc GTVs, loved them both, but there's something special about an Alfa and that 1750 engine designation. 1750 was the GTA, and so all these very popular cars of the 50s, 60s, they were lightweight chassis that allowed the engine, which was extremely potent, to be effective despite its diminutive size. 1750 Nord powered a lot of Alfas that you're probably familiar with. That evolution then evolved into the twin spark 1750, and that 1750 twin spark shares a lot with this current 1750 engine. It's an all-aluminum design. The 4C's engine uses an exclusive to Alfa Romeo KO4. Now, you may be familiar with the KO4 from other vehicles, such as the Volkswagen Golf R. I think I referenced it in my Golf R video. That's a fantastic little turbo in that it spools up very quickly. So you get boost from as low as like 2,000, 2,500 RPMs. Even at 6,500 RPMs, this turbo's still finding the ability to sort of stay at peak boost, still thrust you forward. One other thing I'll say as far as a demerit on this car is these paddles. These paddles are plastic, they don't feel particularly high grade, and there are a lot of aftermarket manufacturers that make paddle replacements for this car, but that isn't the problem. It really isn't the fact that they're made out of plastic that bothers me. It bothers me that they're not attached to the column. I really don't like, and this might be a personal thing, you guys can chime in the comment sections, but if I could change one thing about the car, it wouldn't be anything about wheel offset or really even boost. I mean, yeah, I'd probably tune it, but even if I had to drive this car at stock boost levels for the rest of my life, I'd be fine with that. But boy, would I love to have column mounted shifters. It's just something about when the wheel is, you know, you're winding the wheel around, it's nice to know where they are. Now, I know your hands are always on the wheel, but I think if you've driven one of these cars before, and then you've driven one that has a column mounted like one of the Ferraris or like my Maserati Grand Sport, it's just better on the column. So that would be the one thing I'd change, and it isn't necessarily a quality comment so much as a design. One of the things that sort of defines this car is boost. You can see I have a little boost meter here, and this car is extremely boosty. You know, we're rolling around today, windows up, air conditioning on, extremely comfortable. It's an 80-degree day, which you'd think would sap the power from a car such as this. But the 20 to 20.4 PSI is available and surges forward with real vigor. And it's me and another dude in this car on the hottest day really that we've had yet this year, and the performance is still beyond adequate. This car only has 4,000 miles. I've yet to tune it, but the tune moves that boost figure, edits the timing curves, and takes it up to 29.4 PSI. And I think they've done such a wonderful job with this. Sort of just, I love the wheel, I love everything about it. There's a little bit of criticism in terms of, I can't quite see the very top of the RPM display. I wish that the wheel either went up just a tad, or the TFT was down just a little bit lower. Ideally, you know, as low as I am in this car, I could stand to sit maybe an inch, half inch lower. I think that even Chris Harris, who's not a huge guy like me, also noted that there was a little bit of blockage of the visuals there. That's really it. As far as cheap, you know, switch gear or running gear, I mean, it's running gear that won't break. It certainly doesn't feel low rent. The dash is leather wrapped, contrasting stitching. And so for me, for the money, you start playing Would You Rather with this car. And like I said earlier, the Would You Rathers are notable in that you have to get into some pretty extreme machinery before I'm interested. This is a launch edition, so
It does have the carbon fiber binnacle around the TFT display. But in terms of interior fit and finish, the main thing you look at when you get in this car, the main thing that greets you is the gorgeous carbon fiber tub. And it is inexplicably gorgeous. In fact, let's take a moment where I stop talking and we just look at the carbon fiber tub. Now, because of its overall length, this car gets compared to the Lotus Elise and Lotus Exige quite a bit. And while it's extremely feelsome steering echoes the Lotus Elise, there's a weight and a heft to the controls of the car, and I mean all the controls, that are more akin to a 997 GT3. In fact, if I had to compare this car to any car, just in terms of the way it feels overall, 997 GT3 is a big one. In fact, you have to get all the way up to a 991 GT3 RS before I'm legitimately interested in anything else. I guess the bottom line on this episode is there is a car that weighs 2,400 pounds, made of carbon fiber, by hand, in Italy, that you can buy right now near or at the bottom of its depreciation curve. These coupes are just so good. I mean, honestly, even if this car never appreciated in value, I would not care. I'm thankful that I've had the chance to own and enjoy this car. The price point at which you can currently grab one of these rare Italian beauties at is borderline ridiculous. In fact, I think that the window sticker price was low on these cars, and now is the time. It's definitely one of those cars I think that you'll regret not having owned when it was attainable. Even if they don't go up, they're going to age, and there's something really, really magical about being here at the dawn of this 4C coupe era. Maserati's developing a car based on this same platform, and I'm sure it's going to be mental. This car is extremely special. Each time I drive it, it's a revelation. And I gotta tell you, looking at this car in this video makes me love it all the more. Drive one, I think you'll really like it.